I do love the experience that I gained from working for other people. But yeah, I think my husband and I are very similar in that if we see a void, I might go buy it on, Amazon or whatever, but if it's not there, I'd like to fill it. So then you see an opportunity.
Welcome to the Anthropology Podcast. I'm your host, Megan Walker. As a former naturopathic doctor and anthropologist, I align the intersection of personal performance, purpose, and innovative thinking in badass women working to change the world as entrepreneurs and go-getters. Anthropology is the study and science of what makes an entrepreneur think, feel, and perform in a path compelled by a vision for helping others, solving problems, while building a life on your own terms. Together, we are exploring the health, mindset, and strategies that distinguish the world's best entrepreneurs. This is the Anthropology Podcast. Welcome to episode 228. With any luck, you are on a summer vacation, sitting on a beach somewhere. And if you are, you will appreciate the coming together of this particular episode in your current environment. My guest today, Leslie Hsu, is an entrepreneur by background and happenstance through much of her career. She started working in the handbag industry, designing handbags, working in fashion, and she became obsessed with the intersection of design and functionality. Leslie is the founder of SUNFLOW, and what we talk about today in this podcast is really how do we go from an idea, one of those epiphany moments that I know all of us who identify as entrepreneurs have felt. How do we go from that epiphany moment to actually creating a product that we can put out into the marketplace that adds tremendous value, but that also for us as entrepreneurs enables us to facilitate joy? Leslie and I talk about that gap from idea to execution to having that product in the marketplace. And we also talk about how do we live at that intersection of entrepreneurship and lifestyle? How do we stay married to our business partner? How do we maintain our own health and balance when we work from home? This was an amazing episode where we really talk about the lifestyle of entrepreneurship and everything it has to offer. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Leslie Hsu. Leslie Hsu, welcome to the Anthropology Podcast.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited for this conversation. I was sharing with you before we got started that we've been really doing a series of interviews with amazing female founders who have a variety of different businesses. And I just love to get curious about what happens in their journey, what happens behind the scenes, how do they keep themselves going? And you have a pretty compelling, amazing product and company that you have created, and a really interesting story. So I'm wondering if you can share with my listeners a little bit about you and your background and how we came to this place where you are the founder of and the CEO of a company called SUNFLOW, and you've got a really awesome series of products out in the marketplace.
I'd love to. Let me see where to begin. Let's see. I'm not so young, so I'll just start that I've had kind of a few different careers before getting to where I am now, which started in fashion. So I worked way back in the day, kind of retail, Neiman Marcus. I don't know if you remember Ann Taylor, these stores. But Neiman Marcus was kind of my first step into retail and fashion. And I decided I really wanted to pursue something in fashion. So I moved to New York without a job, and I finally found a job with Tahari, which is a high-end contemporary clothing line. It was really an amazing opportunity since I had zero experience. But I worked with him for 3 years, and then I moved to Calvin Klein. So I kind of worked my way through fashion a little bit, which was actually amazing. Great experience, great travel, great people. And you really kind of get to know what it's like to be out there on your own, because fashion's not the most forgiving industry. After that, I did get married, and my husband and I decided that I would start my own company. So my first company was a handbag company called Leslie Hsu, and it was Leslie Hsu, New York. So I started making handbags with amazing, interesting leathers and trims and things like that. But it was an incredible experience because anybody who is wanting to start a business, the one thing I can tell you is you better know how to figure it out because you're not going to know how to do it. So this took, waiting at the plater for hardware to running down to Brooklyn to the factory and sitting there and figuring out how to get hang tags and then the string for the hang tag, the littlest things, right?
Right.
But it was an amazing experience. I did that for many years. And then we signed a license with Deckers and signed the license to start UGG Australia handbags in 2004, which was a big jump from my little tiny business kind of running around making a few thousand handbags for like Bendel's and Bloomingdale's and boutiques to UGG Australia. So it was a great, again, learning experience because if you came to me that day that we signed, I was like, I don't know how to do that. I mean, it was no longer waiting at the plater for a few pieces of hardware.
Yeah.
Trying to do mass production. So again, you figure it out. And with the help of friends and just asking for help, we got help. And we successfully launched UGG Australia handbags. And we did that for 3 years. Then we licensed True Religion handbags, which we did for a couple years. I did some freelance stints after that, launching handbags again for Jonathan Adler and some other brands. And then I found myself presented with the opportunity to launch something with Barnes & Noble, the bookstore. And I had to sign 1,000 pages of NDAs before finding out what it was because I still couldn't figure out why they would need a handbag.
This is kind of exciting.
And it turns out they were launching something called the Nook, the e-reader.
Right.
So I started working with them and I designed all the accessories that went along with the Nook e-reader. And that was actually really amazing. So that I did for a few years. And then I started another line of handbags, which were charging handbags because the electronics kind of stuck to me saying there's something there. So I did another line of handbags called Punch Case for a few years. And then I kind of took a break. I feel like I was burning out a little bit. It had been so many years of one direction connected to another direction and just kind of zigzagging through that I just kind of wanted to step back and just ask myself what is it that I really want to do? So I did take a break. I mean, the handbags were still selling, but I was kind of just slowing it down.
Coasting.
And I started a little side business called Leslie's Finds with my friends. Help, I guess. We were out to dinner and everybody at dinner was wearing or was getting complimented for something that I had bought for them or with them or picked out for them. So it turned into another little business during my break that I started doing kind of a personal shopping and basically shopping. And if you liked it, you'd let me know. I wasn't ever trying to sell anything. I didn't own anything. So it was actually really enjoyable. I love making people feel good about themselves, right? And that's kind of the result of finding things that people love. They put it on, they feel good about themselves. And I did a little of that with interiors too. So I started to kind of update people's homes. And then that has no actual connection to how I got I'm trying to figure out, is there a lead in? But
there's this thread of entrepreneurship though that is like you can't help yourself.
I can't help myself. Sunflow is it's actually a story that happened along the way because it's a lifestyle, but it wasn't necessarily came from handbags or came from shopping for people. So I don't know if you want to hear that whole story.
Well, yeah, for people who don't know what SUNFLOW is all about and what your products are, can you just explain to them what that is? And I'm really curious, like Were you sitting on a beach one day and you're like, this is ridiculous. I'm carrying all this stuff. I need a better solution. Like how did it happen?
So SUNFLOW is what we like to think of as an elevated beach experience. So right now we've started with a hero product, which is our beach chair. It opens big and comfortable, but closes very small and compact with a push of a button. So it's somewhat similar to a baby stroller, more so than to the beach chair you probably have. We launched a year ago last week. So
wow.
we're not even a year old. And yes, to your question, just as you can imagine, I was on yet another beach trip with my family because that is our happy place. It's very important to us. And this particular trip, we rent a house at a beach, and it's about a block away from the beach, very close. It's kind of our thing. It's our tradition. And we always, we get up in the morning and get ready for the beach, and I'm carrying chairs and the kids are carrying toys. We got coolers, umbrellas, towels that are giant. I mean, then speakers and food. It was just
the paraphernalia.
And we're dragging it. And my husband, of course, is like a mule. He's got like so much stuff on him, but it's also while we're walking, it's opening and closing. Things are dropping. It wasn't just a smooth walk once we got packed up. It was, kind of funny. But we laughed it off. Our kids are complaining, but we're laughing it off because once we get there, we're so happy. So when we got to the beach finally, you set up everything. Takes a while. And the kids go running off and, to play in the water. And Greg and I sat down and we were like, oh my God, it felt like forever to get from our house to the beach. And it was not fun. But we were really happy to be where we are. But I just looked at him and I said, why aren't there beach accessories that are easier to carry, more comfortable, beautiful? I just don't understand it because everybody on the beach had the same accessories. There's got to be some variety. And he just looked at me, and I have, as you can tell, probably an idea every few days. He looked at me and he's like,
I know nothing like those people.
Exactly. He just said, why don't we do it? And fast forward to today, 4 years, we've done it, I think.
Are you both entrepreneurs?
Yes. He is.
And do you know how else to think? Like, this is what I find. Like, you can hear in just like your experience, this, like, it's just, I find there's people who default to entrepreneurism. Like, for some people, it's like, oh, I needed it to do my mission. But then other people are like, I can't help myself. Like, I just can't help myself.
I can tell you that I've had more ideas than I've started businesses. So I can help myself because I resisted all those other ideas. And I have worked for other companies, which I think is really important. Back to your point of entrepreneurs.
For sure.
I do love the experience that I gained from working for other people. But yeah, I think my husband and I are very similar in that if we see a void, I might go buy it on, Amazon or whatever, but if it's not there, I'd like to fill it. So then you see an opportunity, right? I think is how a lot of entrepreneurs start. They can't find what they want.
So how did you go from, and I get that you had experience in manufacturing, which would have lent itself to like understanding some of those first steps. But for those people, like I know there's people who sit on the beach and they're literally like, I have this idea. Like, what is that next step? Because I do find it's the initial gap from idea to preliminary execution that actually holds a ton of people back. Like, what did you literally do next?
Okay. So it's very intimidating because yes, I did have manufacturing experience. Thank goodness, because there's a lot of similarities.
Sure.
This is business. You can take out all of what the details. It's literally business. Timelines, calendars, budgets, all those things are the same. But I did look at my husband and I was like, Greg, I don't know how to make a chair. Are you serious? And he said, we'll figure it out. And I think that friends come in handy always for so many reasons, because if I have an idea, I really don't, and you don't know how to make it something you can hold and touch, you ask people, like you're asking me, and then you can Google people, you can call. We actually had a friend who had a friend who had made um, kind of a stroller type of thing. They didn't really pursue it as a big business, but that person was the first step towards what led to one manufacturer who would teach me a lot of things, to another manufacturer, to another manufacturer. So you just kind of have to go with the flow and really ask as many questions as you can, because then we started saying, oh, you know what would it look like? And I'm not a chair designer. So then you ask Google, and friends who have started businesses, would you recommend any industrial designers? Because I don't know how to do that. So then you kind of you spin your wheels a little bit. You do your due diligence. Who's a good company? Is it worth the money? I mean, money's a factor too. So that could be a different conversation.
Yeah.
But you really just sit down and you say, well, if I want to make a table or a car or a new pair of shorts that people might like, you kind of do your research online. It's so easy now that you can find everything online. Take advantage.
Right.
Your research.
And so that time, you said this was 4 years ago. Has it been taking 4 years for you to get to this point? Were there detours along the way? Like, what happens in that time from idea to execution?
I don't know if I'm at a point yet, because we still haven't stopped. So, but to launch, it was about 3 years. So the first thing we did was we hired an industrial design company, because what I dreamt of, I don't know if it's really going to work. So we worked with a great industrial design company, and then we figured out what it would look like. And that is like a huge step, because then, you imagine it and then you can picture it. So that really helps.
Right.
Then we went to a branding company. So that was also a big step for us. These are kind of initial investments. And the branding company did an amazing job. So it was a partnership, a real collaboration. So both the industrial designer and the branding company, true collaborations. Because you, as an idea person, walk in not knowing exactly what it's going to look like. That's why you need them. But they don't know what you want. So it's really collaborative. Yeah. It's fun. That's really fun, actually, those two steps. Then comes actually making it, which is a little more complicated, because then you have mechanical engineers saying, you can't make this design. It's against physics,
Oh, those limiting beliefs.
Yeah. So, you just can't take no for an answer. And that's where the longer process happens. That's years of back and forth, prototyping, testing. It breaks. Someone said once, if you find the weakest point and you fix it, the next weakest point exposes itself.
Right.
And then you fix that one. The next one shows.
But that's like a business in general.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the steps are that. And I think after the product is actually tested and ready for market, that's where you can kind of take a sigh of relief, but then you get in customers' hands and you hold your breath again.
Right. Well, the overwhelming thing I'm hearing you say, and you alluded to this from a handbag perspective, you're talking about it now, is it's not what you know, it's who you need to know to make those next pieces happen. And I think that's probably a function of where you are also at in your career, when it's your first 2 weeks out in the job market or the spectrum of entrepreneurship, and you don't yet have some capital or experience working with that. Sure, you have to try to do all of the things, but I have found in my experience, the faster you can get to the who, not the what, in terms of execution, you're able to move and bring things to market so much faster than if you're trying to do all the things yourself.
Yes. It's a key point to have a good team.
Absolutely.
And that team usually brings great connections and ideas. So, I'll always say no entrepreneur ever does it themselves.
Right.
Just,
And so how have you been working with your husband through this entire process?
yes, we have.
And so what does that like, let's lift the veil on that a little bit. My husband and I have some initiatives that we are running together. I think one of the things that makes that work for us is that I also have things I do and he has things he does entirely on his own. But what is the secret sauce of having a business that you are running with your partner?
Well, we did just go through COVID, which was also like, if you weren't together.
Again, let's test the structure.
If you weren't together before, you're definitely together now. We are, we work great together. We definitely have different strengths. So
Right.
I think that's good. And we both know exactly what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. So I think that's a really good understanding. So I almost sometimes say that we stay in our lane.
Yeah.
So I really do the creative and the vision and the product. And he really does the business and he's the sales and just kind of and supports. So,
right.
Because I might be a little bit more all over the place. He's very, focused. So it's been great. And I always do ask. When I ask for his opinion and help,
right.
He's there.
Right.
And then he also asks me for help on things and I'm there. But otherwise, we really kind of each do our own thing. But, starting a business is not easy and it's a 24-hour thing. So I definitely would recommend any couple to make sure they carve out non-work time. So, we do a date night every week since, our kids were born. Whether it's just, ordering in and sitting down and watching TV or our favorite show, but just us. And we don't talk about work. Or we go get a drink, at the restaurant down the street, just us, no work. So I think that's nice. People are always surprised, but it's important.
It's interesting you talk about this because I feel like this is a bit of a real life example of, we've had episodes where we've talked about high performance relationships and some of the things that come to the table. And one of the overwhelming characteristics of these high performing relationships is that we have things where we can come together, but you also have your own identity and your own skill set and your own interest and your own thing. Like not everything is this like cohabitation of ideas and projects and hobbies. And I think you're speaking to that exactly. You're sort of showcasing that element.
Yeah, we're very different personalities. So it's actually complementary. I think it works out really well.
Yeah, that's great. And some people say, we know about our relationship, we just can't work together. Like everything works when we don't work together. And I don't think there's a cardinal rule, but I'm always fascinated when people can make it function.
I can't think of somebody else I'd rather work with. So that's also something that I can't take it for granted.
Right.
I know that. So I think he also feels the same. If we weren't working together, who would that person be? And people are always saying to me, they're so jealous. They have an idea, but they need a Greg.
Right.
Well, I have a Greg. So, and I can't share him. So you have to find your own Greg.
And I won't share him. Yeah.
So, but it is interesting,
Yeah, no, I do find that really interesting. And I'm also fascinated for you as a founder and as someone who's driving this business forward. How do you create, and as a parent, like how do you create the time and space to manage your own self-care in the process? Because your business can rapidly become all-consuming.
I guess a couple things. We've been working from home. I've always worked from home. So even with the handbags, I always do it from home because it was really important that instead of, that was one of the reasons I left Calvin Klein because after we got married, I said, when I have kids, I want to be around. So I was able to hold my baby and still do work on the phone, or the computer or that kind of thing. So it really, I love working from home. I think that, I don't know, there's a freedom to working from home, but there's also, a downfall side that you don't really need to ever stop. So I found that the best way to take advantage of that is make it your time. So I usually, in the mornings, I have me time. I dance. I danced when I was younger. So I actually found this wonderful place in Maplewood. And it's called Studio 509 in New Jersey, right? And I dance there every morning. And it's not like a, you know, follow along dance class. It's a choreography class. And if you know what that means, it means you can't think about anything else but what's happening inside that room. Otherwise, you won't be able to catch on. So for me, I always, people laugh. I consider it my massage because in a massage, I would need a pen and paper and I'd be thinking about things I had to do for the rest of the day. It's just not relaxing. I can't turn it off. Whereas there, you're forced to turn it off. You don't turn off your brain for that time. You are going to be lost. So I definitely, and even again, Greg respects, I have that time for me and my meetings start after if they can.
Yeah.
If they can. Another thing we'd usually, I do prioritize vacation.
You're in the right business.
Exactly. So it's very, very important to me to have kind of a vacation on the calendar and I look forward to it. It sounds so silly.
No, it's amazing. And, listen, the entrepreneur me is like, you went into like beach products. I feel like now every vacation you go on from here on in is actually, this is market research. That's an exciting proposition.
Okay, so you just hit the next topic I was going to talk about. It's become a problem, not a problem, but it's become something because our vacations are now work.
Right.
It's almost impossible to separate the two now. So, we've got two daughters, 19 and 17, and they're amazing, huge support. They're part of the business. They've done so much for the company and they're so proud of it. But we did have a little intervention with them because they said that every time we go on vacation and we're all relaxed, we can't help but think about Sunflow. Oh, should we take a picture? Oh, can we do a TikTok here? Should I change the arm rush? Do you think we should do, it's nonstop. So that's something we're working on. I can't say that we've gotten past it because like you said, it's literally where we relax is, market research.
Right.
So we're working on it. We're not there yet, but we're trying really hard.
I love it. And I feel like if there's any industry you could be in where that's the problem that you have, you've picked exactly the right vertical. Leslie, what is next for Sunflow? How do you grow it from here? What becomes your next focus?
Well, our next focus has been my focus for about a year and a half. So since we launched, I kind of moved on to the next products, like, a higher beach chair. I'm working on a pillow. I have a bunch of other things that are coming. It just takes time because I guess I don't want to just put out there something that's there with our name on it. I want to change it. Like, if you've seen our website, our chair opens and closes very easily and it's very comfortable. We also, but our accessories, there's not just something it does that's basic, like our drink holder. It rotates, clips on the right or left, and actually adjusts to fit any size drink, because that was one of my. So it does more than a cup holder. Like our towel, a towel dries you off, right? But ours actually hooks to the back of your chair, so it doesn't keep sliding down all day. So everything we put out there, I'd like for it to be thoughtful, in more than just what it's described as, drink holder or something.
Amazing. I love what you guys are putting out into the world. I love the infusion of your entrepreneurial lifestyle, as it were, and your work. And I feel, Leslie, like this is a perfect place to transition our interview. There's a component of every interview I do. I call them our KPIs. So just like we have KPIs in our business, I believe we have them in how we live our life as well. And I've got a few rapid fire questions for you.
Go ahead.
The first one, what is your most recommended book of 2021?
Well, I love Becoming. Michelle Obama's
great one.
Amazing. So, I'm having my girls read it too. It's just
awesome.
She's she's kind of an icon in so many ways, and even more so now, I actually think, post First Lady. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she's read her kids' version of the book and absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
What is your favorite health hack?
Health hack? Meaning short?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what do you do to just support your health? What is the one thing that, like, you don't miss that one?
I dance. Honestly, it's my health hack.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
How would you define your purpose?
You know, in business or in life?
All of the above.
I guess, you know, I'd love to be doing something thoughtful, no matter what it is. If it's business, I'd like to put out thoughtful products, do it thoughtfully, treat people with respect, be thoughtful. And then the same with my family and my friends. It would be a dream come true to like be described as a thoughtful person.
Amazing. And last question for you. Entrepreneurism. Are we born this way, or do we learn to become entrepreneurs?
I don't know. Gosh, my dad was an entrepreneur. So I don't know if I was born this way or I watched him create what he created. My husband was not, you know, in a family of entrepreneurs, but I think it might be that you're born this way, actually. Yeah, I'd say born this way.
I love it. I love where we came to on all of this. Leslie, you are doing amazing, thoughtful work in this world. Where can we send people to learn more about your work and SUNFLOW?
Please go to our website. It's getsunflow.com. We also have an Instagram. It's getsunflow. And my daughter started a TikTok. Get Sunflow.
Okay, amazing. We're going to link up and check out all three. They will be available in our show notes. For anyone listening, you can go to meganwalker.com/podcast to be able to access this episode and all of these references that Leslie is talking about. I am now excited to book my next beach vacation, and I'm going to make sure that I've got my SUNFLOW chair and paraphernalia ready to go at the same time. Leslie, thanks so much. It was a pleasure. I recently read an amazing book by Ryan Holiday, and it's called The Perennial Seller. And what Ryan talks about in this book is how do we create a product, a piece of art, a book, any entity that actually is able to stand the test of time? How do we create something that is so exceptional that people naturally want to share it? It's an idea that becomes pervasive and is unique. And one of the things he talks about in that book is, one, increasing the standard of product that you release into the world. But secondly, taking the time to understand who you are creating that product for. One of the things that I love so much about this interview, and I found so fascinating about Leslie's story, is really her obsession with the detail of the product that she was creating and releasing into the world. It wasn't an idea that she was rushing to market. It wasn't about how quickly can I move. It was about how innovative and how intentional can I be about the product that I create. I think within the journey of entrepreneurship, there's a time and place to move quickly. And there is a need to also step back and recognize when we need to take our time, when the details are really going to matter, when it's actually the details that help distinguish us in the marketplace. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode with Leslie. I really enjoyed the book Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday. And if you are creating something that you want to put out into the world that is going to stand the test of time, well, then you have just found two new resources to help take these elements to the next level. You can learn more about Leslie and the work that she's doing by heading on over to my website, meganwalker.com/podcast, where you're going to be able to access all of the show notes and the links. And if you want to carry on the conversation, engage in our weekly poll, you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Megan Walker. We're going to be talking about the essence of entrepreneurship. As always, I'm Megan Walker, wishing you an impactful week ahead, and we'll hear and listen and hang out again together next Tuesday.